Venezuela's deposed leader, Nicolas Maduro, has pleaded not guilty in a New York federal court, insisting he remains the country's rightful president just days after being captured by U.S. forces in Caracas. The 63-year-old appeared before a Manhattan judge denying charges that include drug trafficking. Speaking through an interpreter, Maduro told the court he had been kidnapped from his home in the Venezuelan capital during a U.S. raid over the weekend. Maduro's wife, Cilia Flores, also entered a not guilty plea. Both were ordered to be held in custody, with their next court appearance set for March 17. Meanwhile, in Caracas, thousands of supporters rallied in Maduro's defense as his former deputy, Delcy Rodriguez, was sworn in as interim president, signaling a major shift in Venezuela's political leadership. Let's now take a look at the accusations against Maduro and the charges he faces. Now, Maduro is charged alongside his wife, his son, and 3 others. Maduro is indicted on 4 counts on narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, possession of machine guns and destructive devices, and conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices. He's facing the same charges as in an earlier indictment brought against him in Manhattan federal court in 2020 during Trump's first term. Joining me now to share his perspective on this matter is global affairs analyst Ejike Okpa. Thank you so much for joining us. Tell me, what does Maduro pleading not guilty in a U.S. court actually mean at this stage? How much of this is illegal and how much is political?
Well, I mean, when you thank you for having me. When you go to court and the indictment is unsealed, and then it's ready to you, then you stand before the judge and say guilty or not guilty. If he said not guilty, then the court goes into the next stage, which is more hearing, and then a trial is set. So he's doing what he's supposed to do to say not guilty. I mean, he will be in court until March when the next hearing is. So by now, his lawyers, whether it's a public defender or his own hired legal team, will start looking at the charges and see how they're going to make a case for him to be found not guilty or be found guilty. So that's what it is. He's not getting any bail. He's not going to be released. He's going to be in custody until this matter is resolved by a judicial court.
Now, how significant is it that Maduro is insisting he's still Venezuela's president while standing before a U.S. judge?
I mean, he can say whatever he wants. The point is that he's not in Caracas. He's not in the presidential palace. He's in a Manhattan detention facility in U.S. soil. And so, he can verbalize whatever he wants. The point is he's not president as of today. He was 2 days ago, but today he's not. He's a prisoner. He's in jail, and Venezuela is not going to come for his rescue. A new president an interim president has stepped in, and they're going to try to consolidate, things. In a matter of few months, people probably will not even be remembering this case until the trial is concluded and the sentence is rendered.
That would be quite interesting, but I'm just here thinking, does his court appearance effectively end, Maduro's rule, or does it complicate the question of legitimacy even further?
Well, I mean, how's he going to rule from a prison? Is he going to tell guide them, or how is he going to do that? So again, it's one of those ego things that comes along, when you've gone from, grace to disgrace. So yeah, he could say that, but Venezuela people are going to move forward. Of course, there are oppositions, from Venezuela, and then there are jubilation. Some people like it, some people don't like it. That's what you get in any political situation. But after a while, the temperature is high, it's going to cool down, and people are going to move on. People at the end of the day are going to say, what's that got to do with me? I want to live a life. He had the opportunity of being president to do right for his country. He didn't, and now that he's in jail, he still wants to flex his muscle or his ego that he's president. That's just a wishful thinking, like somebody expecting the sun to rise from the west. It ain't going to happen.
Now, I really want to know what's really happening in Venezuela right now with everything that's happened. Who really holds power on the ground right now? Is it the interim government? Is it the military, or is it Maduro's loyalists?
Well, I think it's the interim president, the lady that stepped in, and then, of course, she's going to do what? She's going to consolidate power. She's going to appeal to all the, opposing parties or factions, hey, let's move forward. Let's address the reason why we got here and make sure it doesn't happen again. Governing is not easy, but governing is made easy when people believe in your own effort or your own, desire to make things right for them. Sometimes in these developing countries or emerging economies, what happens is the individuals, hijack the system and make it like it's a personal thing for them. And when they run into trouble, of course, they're going to have their own people who are benefiting from them, to step up and make noise on their behalf. But majority of the people are going to say, you got what you deserve. Let's move on.
Now, when we look at, you've talked about, you just said it right now, as regards the fact that the interim government, of course, they are the ones to, the vice president, who is now the interim president, is the one to consolidate. But I'm quite, some comments she said that's quite interesting. She claims that the U.S., took Maduro, unlawfully. And I'm just here thinking, would you advise that she takes a stand for the people of Venezuela, or she should cooperate with the United States?
All of the above. The trial is going to be set. She's probably going to be called as a witness. If she wants, she can come and testify that, U.S. shouldn't have done this. But I can guarantee you she's not going to show up. She can be sending, friends of the court, amicus brief, and ask the court that, hey, release this guy, he's supposed to, he shouldn't have been taken. But again, remember I said it's a tempo. The temperature is high now. In March, what is it, 3 months away? Yeah. 2 months away, then, we'll see what happens. The legal defense people are going to be building their case. Remember, this happened to Noriega of Panama. Everybody made the noise. As once the noise died down, he did about 20 years in American jail before he was released and sent back to Panama. So in my own estimation, I'm not a trial lawyer, I'm not part of the legal anything, is that this guy is toast. He's gone. Nobody's going to come to his rescue. China ain't going to step forward. Russia ain't going to step forward. Those countries are going to try to realign with the interim people to see if they can get what they've been getting. And that's how the politics thing goes. Once you get out of office, oftentimes the people you think are loyal to you are just going to turn around and ignore you. Because, there are no angels in politics, there's more angles.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Ejike Okpa, for having this conversation with us.
Well, thank you for having me.